Morning, ladies and gents. Simon Brown here with another market standard. This morning, we're going to be looking at the standard online share trading website. In particular, we're going to be focusing on the quotes page. If you've got questions, drop them into the Q&A box. If they're time specific, I'll pick them up as we go along. Otherwise, I will pick up the questions as and when we hit the end of the presentation. If you remember last week, we went through the various different ways to find a share. And what we kept on coming back to was that quotes page. And a lot of peeps were saying more on that, please. So we are here today. So simply up at the top there under quick find shares, I've put in SBK. You hit quote and it takes you to this page here. Let me zoom in a bit. Nice, nice. There we go. And let's run through what we're actually looking at, what the details are. Starting on the left-hand side, you'll find everything you need to know about a particular stock will be lurking on this page. Some of it, you've got to follow some other links, some of it immediately available. Obviously, it's telling us up there that we're looking at Standard Bank. It tells us the share code, which is that 3-letter alpha code that I popped in, the sector, the subsector it's in. If you click on those, you'll go through and see the various other stocks that exist in that space, the type of share it is, any derivatives that are available on it in terms of warrants, single stock futures, contracts for difference, and of course option strategies as well. And that just share status, telling you if it's trading, if trading is open. What's important is if trading is suspended in the share, then you've got a red suspended there. Standard Bank, not suspended. Scroll down a bit more. Gives you daily comparison for today or the last trading day if it's not currently a trading day, and it's showing you so for 1st of April 10:30, so 2 minutes ago as I clicked through the price, the move both in cents and percentages, volume and value, deals, and the high and the low. It also shows you the previous trading day for same data. So it just gives you a quick snapshot of essentially today and yesterday. Of course, if you were looking at this on the weekend, for example, it would show you Friday and Thursday as the 2 previous days. Some market statistics gives you the 12-month high and low for the particular stock, as well as the date. So we had an 84.64 low in just earlier March, just a little over a week ago, 8 days ago was the low. That's some move from 84 to 104. That's a, yeah. It gives you the high, which was in June of last year. So nicely off the lows, well off the highs. Market capitalization, call that 166 billion. That in essence is number of shares multiplied by the share price. That just tells you if you wanted to buy all of Standard Bank with no premium, you'd get a little bit of change from 166 billion ZAR. The 1 October 2001 CGT price. Now, capital gains tax came into effect on the 1st of October. If you bought Standard Bank prior to 1st of October, you can use the 29.61 as your purchase price. Obviously, if you purchased after 1 October 2001, then you use the purchase price that you got rather than that 29.61. So, you know, for most of us, this is 18 and a half years ago. That is moot. There are probably not many peeps on this webcast or watching the video who've bought Standard Bank more than 18 and a half years ago. Dividend history, shares and issue, we'll come to those. Shares/index statistics. So what it's showing you is the Standard Bank dividend yield, earnings yield, and price earnings ratio. And earnings yield is just an inverse of the price earnings. So instead of being price divided by earnings, it's earnings divided by price, multiplied by 100, expressed as a percentage. The old day of thinking around investing is earnings yield mattered, and you wanted to buy a share whose earnings yield was above the sort of 10-year government bond type of scenario. So because your government bond was considered your zero risk, and that was your coupon that you got. So if we're sitting at our government bond at, say, 11.5%, earnings here is 17.25%. So on the very, very basic, and this is not in any sense saying that this is a methodology we can use. It's a methodology we can use for a search, but not as a standalone. What it then also does is it shows you all of the indices that Standard Bank sits in, and then says, you know, what are their dividend yield, earning yield, and price earnings ratio. So you can get a sense, just a quick eyeball, you can say, yo, relative to its peers, Standard Bank's looking quite cheap. There's the All Share, the bank, the FINI. I mean, the top 40 is much more than just financials, and the FINDI is also financials and industrials. The others are financials. The All Share is pretty much the market. It's just a nice quick little snapshot. And then as we go a little further down, the Profile Media consensus forecast. Now, let me quickly delve into what are we talking about by Profile Media consensus forecast. Profile Media is an independent company. They poll analysts in the community, in the broader investment community in South Africa, and they basically ask three questions. Is the company, in this case Standard Bank, a buy, a sell, or a hold? What do you expect earnings per share to be over the next 3 years? And what do you expect dividends per share to be over the next 3 years? They then essentially get you a consensus. And what we can see for the financial year ending 31 December 2020, the consensus dividend is just under 10 Rand, earnings per share just under 18.40, and using current share price, they would make a PE of 5.5, a dividend of 9.9. And then we look for December 2021 and then December 2022. Always the year ends and always a max of 3 years out. Now, there might not be data here. It's also important as how many peeps have actually contributed, and we'll go look at that in a bit. And it's also a case of, as you go further out in time, it's harder to tell what the future will be. I mean, notwithstanding COVID-19, which is making it difficult to see past 17 April, to be truthful, but even under normal circumstances, 2 years and 9 months to December 22 is a long, long way away. And the overall recommendation is a buy. And if you click on that, you can, and then it try to pop up and do something on me. We'll come back to that. Forecast history, we'll come back to that as well. So that's the one I was looking for. So this is just what the recommendation has been over time. You can see updated quite frequently, and pretty much Standard Bank has been a buy since forever. I mean, well, no, maybe back into 19 up. There was a hold in 19, and we go back as far as March 2019. So we're going back a year and a month. I'm going to delve more into what this data is telling us. So I'm going to park that there for now. Back to the top of the page, information, tools, and links. I'm going to spend a lot of time here, so we'll come back to that. A price graph for Standard Bank, it defaults to the intraday, showing you what's happening today. You can also get a 1 month, 3 months, 6, 12, 3 years, 5 years, and a 10-year graph. These are excluding dividends. This is not a total return. This is excluding dividends and just showing you what the price movement has been over that period. Here we've got the Standard Bank bid and offer. Quick point is up at the top there. You will note when I came in, the live is by default. You can select delayed by default, and then you'll have a 15-minute delayed price. What we're looking at here is the bids and offers, the buyers and sellers for Standard Bank. Buyers on the left, sellers on the right. Buyers, top buyer at 103.83 Rand. You will see they are ranked by price. You'll see the volume that is at that particular price. And then ORD tells you how many orders make that up. So for example, on the sell side at 104.07, there are 3 sellers. We don't know what the volumes are, but they're 3. At 104.08, there are also 3 sellers. Whereas the other sellers at 104.06, 104.10, and 104.15, 1 seller each. I'm going to stress that this is the JSE Central Order Book. So this is not just Standard Bank clients. How the process works is you would log on to your broker, in this case Standard Bank, and you would place a buy or sell order for a Standard Bank share. That order gets sent to the JSE, who then collate them all and send them back to this screen here. So we're looking at the entire market's buy and sell orders on the Standard Bank share, not just Standard Bank clients. We also only see the top 5. There is obviously more depth, but in this case, this screen is only showing us top 5. If you want more depth, you need the Iris viewpoint to get more depth there. Shows you the last 30 trades that have gone through from Standard Bank. As I commented last week, in the case of Standard Bank, 30 trades takes about a minute. On some stocks, those 30 trades will go through in a lot slower. Sometimes 30 trades is a day. a week. There's some shares out there where 30 trades is perhaps stretching back over the course of a year. In this example, not so necessarily. Mohammed, I'll see your question. I'll come to it when I get to that page. So that's the page as we land on it. And that is the quote page as we hit the quote page. But up here is all the multitude of different links that we go through. Now, I'm going to tell you the ones which I'm not going to delve into. Let's quickly run through those. Price chart takes you to a Java price chart, which you can look at the prices, etc., of the chart of this particular stock being Standard Bank. You can do some technical analysis. You can save it. You can add the share to a watch list. Watch lists are, I'll do a separate webcast on watch lists. Company activities just tells you who they are, what they do. Standard Bank, they're bankers. Company directors are telling you who the directors of the particular company is, as well as their designation in terms of executive, independent, non-executive, independent, non-executive, and so on. Also will tell you their country of origin in some cases, and where their various different qualifications. Correction, it's not showing a country of origin. That comes up somewhere else. But it tells you, for example, Group FD, chair of the board. We've got Sim Shabalala somewhere, who is the chief executive, otherwise there he is there. Sim Shabalala, the CEO, etc., etc. So this just tells you who the directors are, and then just above that is directors' dealings, which tells you what they have been buying or selling. Now remember, if a director transacts in the Standard Bank share, they have to notify the market within 3 days, whether it was a buy or a sell. They cannot do this during closed periods, and equally so is they have to get permission from company secretary in order to do it. So we can see the various different transactions. Only one transaction so far this year, that is Ono, the FD, bought some shares on the 5th of March. Price not being disclosed, which is weird, but I'll tell you how we solve that. So 5 March, click on news. This is Sense. So let's go back to 5 March. Directors' dealings and securities. Same director. So it was an exercising of 25,000 participation rights, in other words, options, awarded in 2010, exercised, net gain, etc., etc. So, and a couple of other directors. So this is just some options, hence we saw weird data there without actual sell prices. Sense announcements. So all of the Sense announcements for Standard Bank sit on this page, and we're going back to 2009. What is a Sense announcement? Stock Exchange News Service is what it stands for. So the obvious ones are results, interim and final, trading updates, directors' dealings, Basel III disclosures, anything that the market needs to know about, mergers and acquisitions, big deals that they're doing, all of those sort of things. Directors' changes will all be announced under Sense. So this is where you're going to go and find the communication which Standard Bank is making to the market, and essentially helping us with. Is there more information around Standard Bank? Yes, but this is the factual stuff. The other information is where you're going to find in FinWeek, Business Day, MoneyWeb, etc., podcasts and the like. And that is then a case of that then boils down to, opinion as opposed to actual facts. Price history, literally as it suggests, it gives you daily price history on Standard Bank, close, high, low, does not give you open. The volume, the deals, the value, the move, dividend yield, earnings yield, and price earnings ratio for that day. You can click on Save to Excel, and it'll all dump into Excel, and it goes way, 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 way back. I want to say 1994, but I'm trying to actually get there. In fact, so it goes to January 1994. So we've got price history from Jan 94 for all listed stocks, assuming that they were listed back in January 94. Not all the data is there. You'll see what's missing in the earlier days is earnings yield, dividend yield, and price earnings ratio. But you can download this into Excel and manipulate as you want if you so wanted. Research reports. These are research reports that will be of two broad types. One will be fundamental researchers coming out of the SPG group. and they're obviously doing an analysis of it. You can read it, you can have a look-see, and there's a fair bit of history back here. Mohammed, this to a degree ties into your question, which was, Mohammed's question was, are these analysis, recommendations rather any good? Well, now you can go and have a look-see, and you can go and see what all of these have been, what they've been saying, and get a sense of the reliability of it. These are going back to August 2005. We're back. What you'll also find here would be any technical analysis, which is currently done by Traders Corner. Before that was Mishima Gama. If there were any technical analysis reports, they would also be sitting here. And you can go and say, you want to only have, you don't care about the recommendation, you want buy, sell, or hold. In this case, it's Standard Bank, so you probably want just what they all are in terms of get a sense of what you're looking at. Result summaries. So this is prepared by Profile Media. And what Profile Media is doing is Profile Media is essentially getting a short summary, a couple of paragraphs of the results. So instead of having to go and read 20, 30, 100 pages of results, you can come here and get yourself a relatively short summary, a sense of what is happening in terms of the results. And it gives you obviously the interim as well as the year-end results. And this again will go all the way back to 1999, although at that point it was really just a very, very short paragraph. It's been a lot more fleshed out these days in space there. You'll note on the right-hand side here, a new menu's appeared, and I'm going to come back to that new menu in time, so we can park it there for now. Let's go back to there. The other one we've got is those detailed forecasts. So this goes back to the Profile Media and the Profile Media forecasts that we currently have, which I showed you a moment ago. This is just giving you a lot more detail around what is happening here. So consensus view is sitting on hold, and I think that actually clashes with what we saw a moment ago. I'll check that. What matters is, what I'm always interested in is how many people. So what we've got here is the earnings forecast, the earnings per share. So we've got 4 expectations. It tells you what the high and low was. So from 1681 to 1928, that's not too big. It's about a 20% range. The change over previous year, as well as what the PE will be, as well as the prospective prices on current PEs. Down here, we see that visually in a graph, so the view, and that data is horribly out of date. Always check your data. So there's 2018, 19, and 2020 is out of date, but those numbers are there. Expected a 4.1, 5.6, and a 9.3. You'll notice you've got 4 for the financial year 2020. We've got those results. We have 3 for 21, and sorry, the end of year results. 3 for 21, which is next year, and only 1 analyst is putting their head out for December 2022. Makes sense. We've got the same here for dividend. What is the expected dividend to be? Again, we have 2, 1, and 1, so we've got less on the dividend. We've got the peers, so Standard Bank, ABSA, FirstRand, and Nedbank. What are expectations going forward over the next couple of years, so we can get a sense of how the different banks are comparing. The price range is nice. It tells you that the average PE has been 10.98 over the last 5 years. And this one here just is, under certain circumstances, how does it play out? Fairly useless. Difference from the 30 days prior, so coming. But here's the one I really like, right at the bottom. And it's out of date, which is somewhat useless. I'll poke the folks. Let me quick make a note. So what this shows, when it's up to date, because this is showing for 2018, 2019, what it should be showing is for December 20 and December 21. In other words, this year and next year. And it's showing you how the changes happen, what the expectation has changed over the last 300 days. 300 days ago, 240, 180, 150, 120, 90, 60, 30, 7 days in current view. So you can see what that trend has been doing over time, which is very useful to get a sense, because what we're seeing up the top here is a snapshot. What's more important is, what's that trend be? What were you a week, a month, 10 months ago compared to what you are actually right now? Yeah, it does clash. Mohammed, I'll make a note of that. Dividend history is showing you the dividends that Standard Bank has paid out. So the first one you'll see is Standard Bank, and then below that you'll see for the Standard Bank preference shares, SPKJ, SPKP, and SBPP. These are their preference shares, and then a couple of other prefs, etc., down at the bottom. What have we got is the date it was declared. The LDT, in this case for Standard Bank, declare date was 5 March this year. LDT is 21 April. What is LDT? Last day to trade. As long as you hold the share at the close of business on 21 April this year, you will receive the share, the dividend rather. When you bought the share is not important. What matters is that you hold it on close on 21 April. Pay date will then be 28 April. So a week later, the amount is R5.40 and the currency is ZAR cents. Very important. See that little C there? It is ZAR cents. Sometimes you will get foreign dividends, i.e., for example, BHP Billiton, or BHP as they call themselves these days. They pay a US dollar. So there will also be a line for the currency conversion. In other words, at what rate was the currency converted? So you can see a dollar dividend conversion rate and therefore a ZAR dividend. And then script is sometimes companies will offer shares in lieu of a dividend. We can see Standard Bank did this back in 2013. They did it in 10. They did it in 2009 and 2001. And that's just a company saying, you know what, we want to pay a dividend. We want to hold back some cash. So you can have a cash dividend. But if you prefer, we will give you shares. And therefore, you can increase your holding in the Standard Bank, your holding in Standard Bank. Excuse me. We've touched on the others, price chart, watch list, director dealings, directors, and the company activities. We then go to the company profile page. The company profile is going to tell you a bunch of things. It's going to tell you the reg number, when they were founded, when they were listed. Now, in the case of Standard Bank, they were founded in 1969. Standard Bank's marketing would tell you they were founded in the 1800s. That's just a legal process. The bank, which as we know it today, has been around for some 150 plus years, but the current legal entity was registered in 1969, listed in 1970, shows you the code, the currency. Tells you a bit about it, again, sectors, major shareholders, the different brands, and then a whole bunch of information, the address, the email, postal address, registered office, telephone numbers, etc., who the auditors are, financial advisors, legal reps, sponsors, which is your link to the JSE for listed companies, etc., and all the like. Also tells you AGM will be in May 2020, that date not yet announced. And next result for June is going to be released on 20th of August, and that is confirmed. And then the final for December 2020 is expected on the 5th of March, as yet unconfirmed. Now, again, obviously, in time, they will want to confirm it, but right now, they're not telling us. And then all the different results. So results back to 1992. So you can go and find literally all results of listed companies going back to the early 90s. You can get them, you can download them, they will be in PDF, so you can go and grab them as and when you want. What we have on the right-hand side here, so what we've got is, again, directors' dealings, directors, and those we have found elsewhere. We've also then got a list of major shareholders. Two big shareholders are the Chinese, and there it is, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC, and then the Government Employees Pension Fund, the two significant. They're going to show you holders over 5%. The brands that they have, Access Bonds, Achiever, Autobank, ePlan, nothing really terribly telling there, sometimes more than not. Contributions, so Banking, Liberty, Central, and other, not telling us a heck of a lot. Capital structure just tells us how many shares. Now, authorized shares is 2 billion shares at 10 cents each. 10 cents is just a notational value. When you go to CIPC, you issue shares, you fund the company with some money, and then they have a price. That's authorized shares. But if you see on the right, there is issued shares. So their authorized shares are 2 billion, but issued is 1.619 billion. So there's 380 odd million shares outstanding. Essentially, those shares sit in a safe in Sim Shabalala's office. I mean, not really. Of course, they're digital these days. And Standard Bank could easily enough issue them to shareholders for cash, maybe for an acquisition. Important. Shareholders have to get permission, and often at an annual general meeting, a company will ask for permission to issue up to 5% of shares. Beyond that, they're going to have to go back to the shareholders and get go back to shareholders and get more information. Dividend history, forecasts, company news is again just the official announcements out of Standard Bank. In this case, it is going to be the results, but also a little more than just result summaries. We've got some director resignations and the like. The result summaries we've looked at. So full financials and glossy. So this is the PDFs. Important, this is not just financials. This is also the annual report. Far too many investors ignore annual reports. They're quite chunky. You can see the 2018 was 2 parts. And again, this goes back to 2001, including some PowerPoint presentations. So what this is showing you here is nice and simple. You can go and find the historic information. You would find this on the Standard Bank website or whatever the company is that you're looking for, but always just way easier here. And then financials for the various different periods. So again, going all the way back to 1992, what this is doing for you is nice and simple. It's showing you the financials, just a couple of highlights from it. It's not every single line item, but it's giving you a sense of what they were. So December 19 was a year end, 12 months, released 5 March. Currency that they've been used is ZAR. And then just some high level financials going through. What we've got down here is some share price data in terms of, for example, earnings per share, diluted earnings per share, headline earnings per share. I'm looking at these on the left over there. If you're not sure what a NAV per share is, you click on that little button and you've got an explanation here which will help you understand what that formula is and all the various other different formulas. Of course, different industries have different things. In the mining industry, it's about head grade. In the banking industry, it's about cost to income and impairments, otherwise known as bad debts. And he has a whole lot more for the different ratio analyses again, dividend covers, interest cover, all of those. I don't want to say all, but a lot of the fundamental ratios that are going to be important in your decision as to whether or not Standard Bank or whatever the share is that you're looking at is making a good purchase consideration. What you see here is this is for the particular periods. If you go right down to the bottom, ratio analysis, it just gives it to you for everything. So we're looking at finals. Up at the top here, we can ask to view interims and finals, and I think my web browser won't allow that. Correct. I'm sitting in the Brave browser, and you can also go back to earlier ratios. I've got tracking blocking on here, so it's not working. I'd have to go and use my Firefox to make it work. So it's the same data that I showed you a moment ago, but it's just the ratios, just a couple of important ratios. Whereas you'll note here, there's a lot more information in terms of it's also showing you the income statement, the balance sheet, and down here are the self-same ratios that we're looking at. So if you're only really interested in the ratios, you can just go click that there and you'll get all the ratios coming through. Folks, that is the quote page. It is literally everything that we need to know on a particular company, giving us all the information, all of everything that is required from a company. Let me grab some questions. Mohammed, you were asking earlier, buy, sell, accurate and up to date. So it is a consensus. There was a flaw, as we saw. They're useful. Obviously, they're a person or a collection of persons' opinion. We don't know who those people are. It's consensus. Part of the deal is they are anonymous and important. So it's there, but it's not necessarily huge. A question, how do I know if the trades were buy or sell trades? I understand the question. In essence, every trade is a buy and a sell, right? Someone was buying and someone was selling. You want to know who crossed the spread, who actually didn't put an order in the market, but actually crossed that spread. So in other words, did someone jump up and trade at 105.01, or did someone jump down and trade at 104.88? There's no way to know except to watch. and there you would have to watch here. So let's go to Iris. Let's go to my screen here. Let's call up SBK. First thing you'll notice on Iris is I get full market depth. So there are people down there with buys at R5.01, and there are people there with sells at R265.90. What you can do is then watch these last 20 trades and try and get an eyeball as to whether people are buying, crossing the spread up, or selling, crossing the spread down. But the data is not provided. You can't just grab it. You actually have to practically go and figure it out yourself. Fred, how is script dividend price determined? Do you obtain shares for the script on pre-DWT or after? It will be after. Very important and great question, Fred. This dividend amount here excludes DWT, so R5.40, but you're paying at 20% DWT, so you would get less than R5.40, 20% less. Very important. This dividend yield down here is after dividend withholding tax. So the 7.76% is actually practically what your dividend would be in your hands, not as declared. That's hugely important. Mohammed, do pref shares form part of the total ordinary shares issued? Nope, pref shares are separate. They are preference shares, which mean they stand ahead of normal shareholders. They are debt instruments. They pay an interest rate linked to the prime rate, and they pay it as dividends. So if you're in a high tax bracket, say you are in a tax bracket of, say you're in a top 45% tax bracket, and you're earning more than the 23,400 or 800 per year of free interest, what you would want to do is preference shares, effectively you earn interest linked to prime, but you only pay a 20% dividend withholding tax. This is the big Standard Bank preference share. Its nominal value is 100 Rand, trading at 63, and therefore after dividend tax, it's offering a yield of 10.6%. That's after your 20% dividend tax. So if you're looking for income and you're in a high tax bracket and you've already exhausted your free dividend interest component every year, preference shares are attractive. A company can elect not to pay a preference dividend. However, that does mean that they then can't pay a normal dividend. And what's very important, and we saw it here, let me go to there. So let's go to the SBPP, which is that one there. Non-redeemable. In other words, you can't force Standard Bank to buy it back at its 100 Rand nominal value. Non-cumulative, which means that dividends don't accumulate. In other words, if they skip a dividend, sorry for you. Non-part preference shares, and also sometimes, and I don't know if we've got any here, sometimes they're also going to be, nah, they're not giving us any more information there. They're going to be different types of the pref shares. But very important is the non-cumulative. So this is a cumulative preference share, which means that if they skip a dividend, they come back and they pay it again, paying 6.5% on a 1 Rand pref share. EJ, where do we see how many unsecured loans a bank has? In this case, you would have to delve into results and into the detailed results, and they would give you the information there, ditto in the annual report. And they would, and there's different levels of secured. So what you've got on the one side is a home loan, very secured. You've got a car loan, that's kind of secured, but I can hide the car. I can't hide my house. And then you've just got your unsecured, which is credit card, etc., etc. And that would come through in the small print, the details within the results and annual reports. And that would be ditto for PBB, which is personal, private and banking, business, as well as also for CIB, commercial investment. Question, which will any of the information be charged to you from your quotes bank balance? Nope, only prices. Live, I'm sitting on live, but I can click there and say show me delayed, and now it will come. Then it came, so it should be showing me. Now you see I default because it's still showing me I default because I got Iris, so I got live prices everywhere. But only price information do you get charged for. Everything else is free. Well, free in the sense that you're paying to be part of the online share trading. Malcolm, how do one get access to Iris? So on the top menu up there, click Viewpoint, and then you've got different levels. Now I'm on the high level, level 5. I think it costs me $180 or so. In fact, if I click there, we can see the different options. So there is a free, which gives you 15-minute delayed and level 1. In other words, you only see the top buy and sell. You don't see all that market depth. That is free. Unless you are deeply active or day trading, free is all you need. I mean, and also, and I'll come to it in a moment. Well, let me show you. I mean, we've got fairly robust charting capabilities here. If I go to that one there, we've got, so in fact, let me show that line. And okay, white is fine. And let's go and get 5 years of data. What am I'm looking at something terrible. Well, it's not terrible, it's just a bond ETF. Let's go back to Standard Bank. Let's grab 5 years of data. And if we click all, it takes us all the way back to the early 90s. And I can now do technical analysis on this chart. So I can go and get lines and all the other bits we will do, not next week, the week after. I'm going to do using Iris. We can start drawing trend lines and all those other bits and pieces and et cetera. We can save it. So if you're currently paying for an end of day data package, this is free. One thing you can't do is do a scan. So you can't scan and say, show me all the stocks with an RSI below whatever, which may or may not be a problem for you. So you've got the free version, and then for 175 ZAR, you've got, which includes live data, but level 1, which is still only top. And then what I've got, which is level 5. So it's portfolio, it's trading, it's market data, live, and it's market depth, level 5, which is all the way, shows you everything. So I pay the 195, but you can get for free. My recommendation to peeps is get the free one. If you really discover that you need the live level 1 or 5, sure, but for now, free is lacquer. Will I be covering interactive price charts in future? Brian, yes. Next week, I'm hoping Edition will do WebTrader for us, which is the offshore platform. The week after that, we're still in lockdown, although by then we are on day 19 or day 20 of lockdown. I'm going to be doing the charting, both the interactive and the Iris. Are we able to get the recordings of the webinars? Yes. I'm dropping them into the YouTube channel, the reminder email which went to you this morning. So every day when we have one of these webcasts, an hour beforehand, there's a reminder email that goes to you, and it tells you 3 things. Reminds you about the webcast coming up in an hour's time with the link to join. I also included in there is just giving you a quick headline what the topic is for the next couple of days. So for example, on Friday, we're going to be looking, I've got Chris Rule from CoreShares looking at beta benchmarks and indices and constructions, etc. And then Mondays will be Dineo and I. And the third thing that email has is the link to the YouTube channels. And typically within about an hour of this webcast finishing, the video will be online on the YouTube channel. Ian, software people to allow viewing of the price charts on the Apple system. So Ian, is it possible software people to allow viewing of the price charts on the Apples? Has to be utilized. Ian, so I use a Mac. I'm not sure. I mean, my Iris is perfect, and I'm thinking maybe I know what price charts you're talking about, and maybe you mean that price chart. Am I correct? And it works for me. So I'm sitting in the Brave browser right now. I'm on a Mac. I've got the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's working fine. I don't like Chrome. I find it intensely hog of memory, but I use it for some applications just because it's there and it works well with Gmail and my life is in Google. But it's working for me on Brave, nice and clean. Otherwise, I use Firefox. But so I got this laptop 1st of March, so it's now a month old, and I haven't even installed Firefox yet. I'm using the Brave browser, and I got to say, this Brave browser is a thing of beauty. You can't do some things on it because it quite simply says, oh, no, that looks dangerous. But in terms of being like light on memory and quick and speedy and pretty and everything else. I really, really like it. Stop losses. Gareth, got your question. No, let's do some stop losses. I'm going to add that to the list. And I'm going to do stop losses from many perspectives: investor, trader, and then practically how to put them on the website. In other words, how do we practically place a stop loss, trailing or fixed or something? Gareth, we will do stop losses, absolutely. A quick question. While I've got you folks on here and my questions have dried up. Easter weekend next weekend. So what I'm doing is I'm taking our Friday one, which would be ETFs. I'm going to move it to Thursday. I'll take our Monday one, which would be me and Dinero. I'm going to move it to the Tuesday. Do we want to do something over the long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Let me know, simon@justonelap.com, or let Dineo know, let someone know if you think we should. Because normally, we're running kind of business lives here in a sense. And we're like, well, this is a long weekend. We don't do any work. But everyone's at home. Everyone's got a computer. Maybe we do. Let us know. Web Trader, yes, I'm asked Edition. I will ask Edition to do Web Trader next Wednesday. So that will be Wednesday 8th at 10:30. Ladies and gents, not seeing any more questions come through, so I'm going to park it there. Everyone, appreciate your time today. This video will be up on the YouTube channel in the next hour, give or take. I've got to compile and upload and everything, but typically it's about an hour turnaround. And back on Friday, we'll be talking ETFs, and check the links for the email that gets sent to you in advance, tells you what's upcoming, and more importantly, also gives you a link to the YouTube channel. If you just head to YouTube, don't search Standard Bank, search Standard Online Share Trading, and you will find the 4 we have done, and now this is the 5th one. Quick point on the Monday one, which I also do an RSS feed of audio only. If you want that in your podcaster app, whatever you're using, go and search for JSE Direct. I am dropping in my normal JSE Direct on Thursday, but I'm dropping me and Dineo into the RSS feed on Mondays, which is about 40 minutes or so after. Everyone, stay safe. I was going to say enjoy lockdown. I don't know if anyone enjoys. I've worked from home for years. To me, this is just a little awkward that I can't walk around the block. But Rory, I agree with you. Take a break over Easter. I don't know what we're going to do with 4 days, but by then we'll be more used to lockdown, I suppose. Anyway, stay safe. Wash your hands, everyone. We'll chat again Friday. ETFs. Cheers all.